What's good, everyone? This your main correspondent, Alan Taylor, and I'm back in the broadcast room yet again, always with another one. And yes, indeed, it is another one. So this is where we at. You can clearly see the title of the broadcast. And yes, so apparently JD Vance and the Trump force, shout out to them. You know, that's what I'm calling them now. Apparently they're over in Europe and they're speaking to the EU and things like that. We're also going to hear what the leaders of Europe had to say about what JD Vance had to say and things like that. And we're also going to dive off into the sit down that they had with Zelensky. So let's go here now. Let's dive off into this. Quarters, nickels, and dimes, people.
This week, Vice President J.D. Vance stunned leaders in Europe, questioning whether their values warranted defense by the United States. Vance spoke in Munich, painting a picture of European politics infected by media censorship and political correctness. Here's CBS's Elizabeth Palmer.
The vice president's speech was a broadside aimed at European leaders who just weren't expecting it, especially Germany's. It's not only hosting the conference, but will be heading into national elections next week. The address accused mainstream European politicians of failing to control immigration and then eroding free speech by muzzling far-right anti-immigration parties.
Now, definitely by the immigration situation, who's going to argue with that? Yes, we all know Europe is being overrun by illegals over there, as well as over here. Now, we've all been slacking around the world and just allowing all these other people from these countries to come into our, I guess you would say, first world, countries or whatever you want to call it. It's crazy, though, but this is true. Let's keep going.
The threat that I worry the most about vis-a-vis Europe is not Russia, it's not China, it's not any other external actor. And what I worry about is the threat from within.
The chill in the room gave way to real anger. Germany's defense minister Boris Pistorius said comparing European governments to authoritarian regimes was just unacceptable. There has also been a furious reaction in the European media, too. The speech has been called vengeful, preachy, unkind, and above all, widening the rift between America and its allies and friends. Meanwhile, all eyes had been on a meeting between the U.S. Vice President and Secretary of State and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky. But after only half an hour, the discussion ended with no new information on how the U.S. would help bring an end to Russia's war with Ukraine, or crucially, what role Ukraine itself would play in negotiations that will shape its own future. Elizabeth Palmer, CBS.
All right, so this is where we at right here. So apparently, JD Vance, he went over there, him and the Trump force out here. They went over there and spoke their mind.
So what the French toast is there to think about?
They went over there and spoke their mind. See, the problem here is everybody sitting around here think Trump is playing games. A lot of them people over there in the EU, they know Trump is not playing games. That's the reason why a lot of these other countries, especially our home border countries, stuff like that, they're trying to get in line. We trying to get everything in line over here. Our mayors, governors, everybody. But, Pam Bondi had to send out a few lawsuits out here to make sure people knew that we weren't playing around. It just is what it is here. So apparently they didn't like what JD Vance had to say. So we're going to dive off into this next one and see what they said in some of the leaders in the EU had to say. Let's go here now.
Vice President J.D. Vance delivered a pretty tough speech, should we say, to Europe, pretty much scolded Europe. I mean, that's what I'm thinking because I saw it and I heard some reaction from Europeans. Didn't much mention in his speech Ukraine, but did talk a lot about your internal politics and essentially said that the biggest threat he saw was European internal politics, that you're not listening to your people, and therefore we have this big problem and this big weakness.
And they're not listening to their people. I don't know if you guys remember this, but it's in one of my broadcasts on my channel too. But the thing of this is, if y'all remember those riots that was happening in London last year, it just happened last year. It made world news. Like seriously, they was over there burning stuff down, protesting very hard. doing a lot of things. You know, it was crazy. I wish I still had the footage, but Jesus Christ, man, I have to look for it. But yes, if you remember that, they were over there, you know, basically protesting against all that crap that, you know, saying definitely in London from what I saw, and protesting against that crap that's going on over there, the censorship and all other types of things that these people over in Europe got going on. It's crazy over here. Well, over there.
What's your reaction to that?
When we meet in person, then we have very good and frank discussions. U.S. is our great ally, and they are also saying that they keep or they remain our great ally. When, you know, listening to that speech, it seems like, you know, they try to pick a fight with us, but we don't want to fight with our friends. We have other threats coming from outside. And I think, you know, in domestic politics, we have all kinds of issues, and we are settling those ourselves, but we need to work with our allies with the bigger threats that there are in the world, that we have together with the United States regarding, you know, Russia attacking Ukraine, or, you know, the international order really not functioning, other aggressors in the world having appetite for their neighbors' countries, critical raw materials, the protection of these. I mean, there are so many issues that we you know, can work on and will work on.
And that's definitely true. I understand that too. But in order to do this, JD had to tell these people about themselves. Just like, to be honest with you, we had to get shit straight over here in this country. We had to take the trash out too. So, I mean, you know.
So what the French toast is there to think about?
We had to take the trash out too in order to start clearing things up, so we can go and try to deal with other issues that we have to deal with as far as America dealing with other nations. We had to clear things up too. And now that JD's out there and he's letting them people know, listen, look, this new administration, we're clearing things up at home, and it's time for y'all to get y'all shit together. Everybody looking crazy. Everybody looking crazy. No, ma'am, no, sir. You're gonna have to get your stuff together like America's trying to get its stuff together, so we could all be on one accord in the world. All right. Let's keep going here. We're going to go to Laura Ingram, and she's going to check out, she's going to break some things down too. Shout out to Laura Ingram. Here we go.
Ending global welfare. That's the focus of tonight's angle. All right, the globalists gathered in Paris, and they got a friendly but firm earful today. Vice President J.D. Vance had a message to world leaders about America's plans regarding the future of AI. The simple message: if you want our business, you're going to have to treat us right. We'll work with you, but don't think of taking advantage of us or bullying American corporations.
The Trump administration is troubled by reports that some foreign governments are considering tightening the screws on U.S. tech companies with international footprints. Now, America cannot and will not accept that, and we think it's a terrible mistake, not just for the United States of America, but for your own countries.
I love when they pan to the faces, the grim faces. We used to be able to take advantage of Joe Biden, but not you. Well, what specifically was Vance referring to there?
Many of our most productive tech companies are forced to deal with the EU's Digital Services Act and the massive regulations it created about taking down content and policing so-called misinformation.
So basically, you know, the freedom of speech situation and things like that. And over in Europe, certain things that you can and can't say online, or else they will come and arrest you or give you some type of fine or some crap like that. Which is wild. Just off words now, words, not even action, just somebody expressing their thought process about how they think about a certain situation, or, you know, a dynamic that's going on within the government or anything like that. And that leads to a huge problem when the people cannot express what they're thinking about the leadership of their country. The country's doomed to fail. The country's doomed to fail, for real. Can't make that shit up.
Of course, we want to ensure the internet is a safe place, but it is one thing to prevent a predator from preying on a child on the internet, and it is something quite different to prevent a grown man or woman from accessing an opinion that the government thinks is misinformation.
It's about time that a U.S.
Right, yo. And that's why the leaders over there in the EU right now are pissed with JD Vance and, of course, Trump as a, extension of JD. And this is how this is going to go here. Trump's trying to clean up America. And at the same time, though, too, those people over there in the EU are going to have to get their stuff together so we can actually work together and complement each other in the world. Definitely allies and things like that. If you're truly allies, then why don't you clean up your mess? We can't sit around here and be mad at people for having an opinion. I don't care what part of the world you're in, an opinion or a statement or anything like that. And you mean to tell me if the government doesn't agree with it, they can come to my home, lock me up, or give me some type of huge, ridiculous fine out here. And that's supposed to be okay?
Official called out Europe's attack on free speech right to their faces.
Right.
Look, the Europeans aren't even trying to pretend at this point. Officials there are openly calling for censorship of American social media companies, including X and Meta. And back in August, remember when Musk was about to interview then candidate Donald Trump on X? An EU commissioner warned about a risk of amplification of potentially harmful content. At the time, I was thinking, harmful to whom? Well, to the global bureaucrats, of course.
Right. And that's where we at. And see, when the people actually say what they want, then everybody's going to get in an uproar here. And you know what? At this point, nobody's really caring anymore. We need people that are going to be good leaders, that are going to be able to, want the people to have a voice. Now, I'm not saying, be outrageous and, just a bunch of stupid stuff. No, but all I'm saying is, though, to state an opinion or either talk about something that's actual a fact and the government wants to get mad and censor you, that's a whole problem right there. That's a whole problem. So let's go here now. We're about to dive off into the JD Vance and Trump for a sit down with Zelensky out here. All right. Yeah. So this is where we're at. We're going into it. Quarters, nickels, and dimes.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're, of course, happy to welcome the Ukrainian delegation led by President Zelensky. We had a number of fruitful conversations, a number of things for us to follow up and work on. And fundamentally, the goal is, as President Trump outlined it, we want the war to come to a close. We want the killing to stop, but we want to achieve a durable, lasting peace, not the kind of peace that's going to have Eastern Europe in conflict just a couple years down the road. So we had a number of good conversations about how we might accomplish that together, and certainly we'll have many more in the days, weeks, and months to come. President Zelensky.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Very briefly, I think Vice President said everything absolutely correct. We are very thankful for American support. President Trump, we have good conversation today. Our first meeting, not last, I'm sure. And really what we need to speak more, to work more, and to prepare the plan how to stop Putin and finish the war. We want peace very much, but we need real security guarantees, and we will continue our meetings and our work, and we will be very happy to see General Kalak also in Ukraine in this closest time. Thank you, Vice President, for meeting. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you all. Take care, guys.
How does this move forward if Ukraine is not ready to come to the table with Putin? If Ukraine is not ready to speak with Putin at the table, how do you move forward? Will you still negotiate?
Well, look, I think the way that this conversation moves this forward is, first of all, you have great members of the Ukrainian delegation. You have our incredible Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, here. We have General Kellogg. It's important for us to get together and start to have the conversations that are going to be necessary to bring this thing to a close. That's all I'm going to say for now, because I want to preserve the optionality here from the negotiators and our respective teams to bring this thing to a responsible close.
Right. And I could definitely agree with that. And this is the point here. Some things don't need to be aired out about what they need to talk about at the table. Everybody doesn't need to know all the strategic moves. And I definitely get that. And like I said, yeah, you got your Trump force right there. So, what I'm saying? Let's keep going here a second.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
What is the timeline of this meeting?
Okay, so obviously that is the end of it there. Yeah, that's the end of it there. And, you know, it just is what it is at this point. And this situation has to be had. And I definitely agree with JD about the situation where they need to actually come up with a solid plan to where they won't be going back to war in the next couple of years. You know, for some people, war is profitable. For the mass amount of people, it's not, because you have to have people go out and fight these wars for these figureheads and things like that for their own agendas. And it's not profitable for the citizens and for the men and women and the children of the society as well. It's not. And we have to get things in line. And I definitely agree with what JD did. He went out there, he told those people about themselves. It's time for them to start cleaning up their mess, just like it was time for us to clean up our mess over here in America. And these are just facts out here.
So what the French toast is there to think about?
It was time. It's time. There's nowhere around this. But it is what it is, though. Shout out to all my subscribers. Mad love to y'all. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell to be notified whenever I decide to post things. And like I always say,
and that, my friends, is the bottom line.
That, my friends, is the bottom line.